Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome into Coffee Break presented by Bath Fitter. Rachel Vihel and DMAC hanging out with you. Plus, we've got a special guest that we're going to bring in here in just a second. But DMAC, how are you? Are you tired after last night? My goodness.
I am a little tired. It's 7:30 start. The Nuggets start at 8:30 on Sunday. It's like ay ay ay. So listen, I love covering the teams and writing for DenverSports.com. All of that. Um, I have learned if I'm going to write anything, it's like your homework in school. I better sit there and just do it down there rather than come all the way home where it doesn't get done.
Next
So
Monday morning is going to be brutal for us. It's going to be tough.
yeah, I was at the arena close to midnight. That isn't a remarkable place. I mean, I don't think it ever really closes, ever. So you really could stay there all night because there's always something going on there. It's the what happens. First of all, did you know this? After almost every Nuggets and Avalanche game, there's an activity. So there's a group that does something on the court or something on the ice after every single game.
That's like 11 o'clock at night.
It's Rachel. It's crazy. There were like 100 people taking shots on the net after 11 o'clock at night. So they had the red carpet out there. And then it must have been a workplace or a group, or I don't know. But they were out there like taking shots from center ice at the net. I mean, I have seen groups of like 200 to 300 people lining up to take like a foul shot. I've seen like an adult co-ed basketball game being contested. I've seen like adult hockey games, like real games. It is just crazy that there's always something after almost every single activity there. It's wild.
All right. Well, you now have some new homework. You need to go ask these people, what the heck are you guys doing? Because apparently we all need to join at some point.
I think if you work for the right business or you play for the right hockey team, or Rachel, I don't know. It's crazy though. There's always something going on. It's nuts. That being said, I certainly wasn't the only one there past midnight, but it was an awesome night. It was a great game, and Connor McDavid, he did extend his scoring streak because he did have an assist on the final on Boucher's goal at the end there. So he was amazing to watch. So were the Avs. That was just a freaking awesome hockey game. And if that's the Western Conference Final, sign me up. That would be beyond thrilling to see these two teams go at it again.
No, I'm with you. All right. Well, we do have a special friend in studio with me today. We have our very own Mike Evans, who is hanging out with us. So, Mike, first of all, thank you for coming in with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, did I just hear you guys complaining about a late night and how
We're not complaining about the late night. We're complaining about the early morning.
it's 10:30 as we're doing this right now. How about when the Nuggets play Sunday night and it won't tip off until probably about 8:40 or so? This poor soul has to be up at 3:45 the next morning.
See, I'm not envious.
Me, not you two.
Are you going to stay up for the entire game, though? That's the question.
Yeah. Oh, no. This
The
is
playoffs are a different game.
It is a different thing, and I can't wait. And DMAC's done enough early mornings to know that what happens when you have one of these playoff games, the adrenaline carries you through the morning.
Yep.
Now, by about 11:30 in the morning, you hit like a ton of bricks comes down on you. But actually, getting up to talk about a playoff game immediately after with about 4 hours of sleep really isn't that hard.
Ugh.
Mike, have you ever thought to yourself, geez, DMAC is just starting work when I'm done for the day? Like, it's just this crazy, like you're almost done, right? You're almost done for the day, relatively, right?
Yeah.
I am just starting. like I'm just beginning to do whatever I do for the rest of the day, and you're almost done.
And when my day starts,
wild world.
When my day starts, you two are off in dreamland somewhere. So
right.
I will say I'm in the middle. I'm definitely not you, the earlier bird, but I do start earlier than DMAC does. I've been going for about 3 hours now, so I got to put together a show. I got to do everything else. But it's when you get home from the game, it's that adrenaline that it takes so long for you to like recover and to actually be able to go to sleep. Like that's the part that's killer.
Well, and talking to all the fans out there, you got people who get up early in the morning to go to work, and you probably do experience the same thing, especially if you go to the game, right? Can you imagine going to an Avalanche or a Nugget playoff game, they win, and all the energy, excitement? Do you know how long it takes you to come down off of that?
So long.
And it's kind of one of those things where I know for me personally, like if the Avalanche or Nuggets win and it's a close game, exciting game, overtime game, it's not like one of those things. All right, game's over. Go to bed. Get up. It takes a while to kind of come down off that high.
Decompress. I will say, if you are in attendance at the game and you've had a few, that can also help you.
Sure.
Well, there you go. And buckle up, Buttercup, because look what is coming down the pipe next week. Because I think we're gonna go Nuggets, Avs, Nugget, Avs. All next week playoff games at Ball Arena. I mean, I think that's the way it's gonna shape up.
Well, and you guys, how lucky are we, right? Like, we can sit here and talk about the late nights, whatever. We're talking about two fantastic teams that are in the Denver area, the Mile High City, and we're lucky enough to cover them too, and the fans are lucky enough to get to enjoy the games. Like, we're so lucky. Like, when we complain, we're not truthfully complaining, I swear. We're so incredibly lucky to get to do this.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great run. I have the utmost confidence in the Avalanche getting ready to make another long run. And I don't know where you are, D-Mac. I'm not really sweating the Nuggets. I'm not. I think that this is a team that it's the NBA, and teams go through these lulls. The Nuggets lull happened to come at the end. They effectively clinched the conference when they beat Memphis over a month ago, and I think they exhaled. But I'm confident that they're going to be able to get that edge back through the first round and be ready to go by the time they get into the real meat of the Western Conference playoffs, second round against Phoenix.
I think that no matter who they play, because of what these teams have to do to get to the Nuggets win game one relatively easily. And then, okay, now whoever you are, Pelicans, Wolves, OKC, now you got to beat the Nuggets twice at home. If we just say, hey, that first game is going to go the Nuggets' way because look what it's taken for those teams to get there, and we're going to cruise on game one, which I think they'll do, how in the world are you going to beat the Nuggets twice at home? So I think the Nuggets will relatively cruise through the first round, and then we'll sort of take it from there. If they struggle in the first round or lose, there probably will be some sort of overhaul, deservedly so. You can't have the best team ever and struggle. I tell you what, with this hockey stuff, I have faith in the Avalanche, but man, there's good teams out there for sure. They're not the only ones. But that being said, Mike, Rachel, I think it's easy, relatively, to see a path for both of these teams to go to their Western Conference finals. Got to be careful. In the NBA, it's finals. In the NHL, it's final.
I think in the case of the Avalanche, it just comes down to this for me. Are there some teams out there that could make them sweat a little bit? Are there some teams that could extend them 6 games, maybe even 7 games? But the one sort of measuring stick that I keep coming back to for the Avs is show me the team in the West that is going to beat this team 4 times. 4 times. And that includes not only beating them 4 times, but going into an elimination game for the Avalanche and then being able to beat the Avs in an elimination game. I don't see that team. I know Edmonton just came in here. Edmonton looks very impressive, but that's still the team that they swept a year ago in the Western Conference Finals. I know that Edmonton's not exactly the same team. They've made some additions. That addition of Mattias Ekholm, the defenseman that they added, might be arguably the best trade deadline pickup of any NHL team. So it was a heck of a pickup. They're a really good team, but this is still a team that the Avs swept 4 straight last year. The idea that 1 year later, this Edmonton team is going to turn around and beat this Avalanche team 4 times. They might beat them twice, might beat them 3 times. 4 times, I just don't see it.
Oh, I'm with you. And even last night, Nathan MacKinnon didn't look great. I was like, okay, there's clearly something going on there. He didn't look great. You still don't have Makar in the lineup. Right. Like, he's a massive part of this Avalanche team, and yet it still goes into overtime. The goal sucked. That's what it is. But, I mean, even Jared Bednar said this is a scrappy team. Like, they're still able to go out there every single day. And we all have faith and trust in this Avalanche team because they've been there. So it's like, all right, well, here we go. Buckle up, everybody. It's not going to be an easy road, but I still have faith that there's a good chance that they can do it.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. Listen, it's not supposed to be easy. Okay,
Heck no.
and the Avalanche will get back Makar, Manson, and Lehkonen. Gabe, I don't know. I'm kind of giving up hope for even the entire playoff run, except for the fact if you go far enough, it's like 2.5 months. I mean that's a long time for recovery period. So I shouldn't just wave the white flag with Gabe, but I'm not counting on for him to be back in the first round. However, I don't think the Avalanche are. Listen, are they really going to struggle with the Kraken if they're able to do that? And they play the Jets tomorrow night at home. The Jets have not only do the Jets have nothing to play for, but they would be smart to load management whoever their good guys are because they made the playoffs. They can't go up, they can't go down. The team that's a little bit more like, yeesh, watch out, would be the Predators because they've got nothing left except to play their final hockey game of the season. So if you only had one more game to play for the rest of the season, I mean, why wouldn't you play it full tilt? So I think, and I know the Avs need 3 more points out of the next possible 4 points, unless we get some help. I think San Jose could help us. They're playing the Stars, I believe. You know, they could help us out and beat the Stars. They have nothing to play for either, so maybe they go all out too. It's their last hockey game of the year tomorrow night. We'll see how it goes. But there's plenty of things for the Avs to play for on Thursday night against the Jets. The Jets are kind of a last sort of place team in terms of playoff teams. And then I think it lines up with the Avs and the Kraken. You know, it is interesting. I do know how it works. But the playoff structure for the NHL, Mike and Rachel, it's a little quirky because you got division winners, 2 and 3s playing against each other, and then wild card teams. And the wild card teams play, you know, it's making it boom. But I believe it's the Kraken, right? If the Avs win the Central. Am I right about that?
Yeah, if everything stays the same right now, they're playing the Kraken. And I kind of like it. I like the Grubauer matchup again, you know, playing the Avs.
Although because I could see right away the immediate attraction of playing a team like Seattle. Oh, it's an expansion team. It's a second-year team, but
a solid one.
NHL expansion teams, they're not your grandfather's expansion team anymore that loads up on journeymen and never wers and never will be's and young players. Vegas came in and put the whole expansion model, turned it upside down, went to the Stanley Cup Finals in its first year. Now you got a Seattle team that's over 100 points in its second year. They're one of the best road teams in the NHL. And you got a bunch of guys with real resumes, real NHL resumes, who are going to come in here with absolutely nothing to lose, and they've shown an ability to win on the road. So as we've been going through these final few weeks, and there's been a lot of talk about what would be the easier path, and the idea is, oh, get Seattle no matter what. I honestly don't think it's as much of a layup as some people are trying to make it out to be.
Okay, but why?
Just because people are looking at Seattle as an expansion team. And they're not an expansion team because NHL expansion teams are no longer your traditional expansion team. And Vegas,
but there's like no player in particular that you look at and you're like, well, this guy can absolutely dominate.
But you would have said the same thing about Vegas when they were an expansion team, made up of the same kind of dispersal drafts and unprotected lists and all those kind of things. But Vegas gave a model on how expansion teams can be put together right away and be successful right away, and it looks like Seattle's followed that model. Look, again, there is not a team in the West that I think the Avs are going to lose to, but I would not just blow off Seattle as, oh my, I'd much rather play Seattle than Dallas or Minnesota. I do not understand. Maybe, DMAC, you can explain it to me. I do not understand how suddenly Dallas and Minnesota become these boogeymen that the Avalanche need to avoid at all costs. Win. Why?
Well, I mean, because Dallas beat the crap out of the Avs in Dallas, and because Minnesota beat the crap out of the Avs, frankly, at home relatively recently, too. It was taking a couple of tough losses unexpectedly that I think has, raised some eyebrows. That being said, the Avs got revenge at least against Dallas. And Minnesota, I mean, come on, Mike. Minnesota's been kind of a a weird boogeyman for the Avs for years and years and years.
Yeah, but
I'm with you. I'm not overly concerned.
Not for this current Avalanche group. I mean, yeah, they handed Patrick Waugh his last loss as a player back in 2000. 3 or 4, 20 years ago, and they beat the Avalanche of Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene's Avalanche is who they beat when Patrick Waugh was the coach back in 2014, 2015. Come on, don't tell me about the Wild as being this boogeyman for this group.
I actually, well, first of all, we won't have to see both of those teams. Right. It'll be one or the other. So, I mean, there's that. And frankly, we saw the next best team in the Western Conference last night with the Edmonton Oilers. They got better at the trade deadline. They have the best. You know what? I got to give it to McDavid. You know, seeing him up close and watching him, and I've seen him in person several times, but it's like he really is unbelievable. As much as I love Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, I do think he's got wallpaper personality. I don't think McDavid is much of a leader, but he's such an freaking believable player. And then, of course, Draisaitl is great, and Nugent Hopkins is really good. And Ekholm, you pointed out, it's so funny because everybody who scored, I think everybody who scored last night, combined, the goal scorers had 17 goals of the 3 goals that were scored. Meanwhile, on the ice, there were 5 players that had 100 points or more in the season. So it was a quirky game. No, I agree with you, Mike. I'm not afraid of Dallas or Minnesota. I'm certainly not fearful of the Kraken. I think the big matchup will be Edmonton. And I got to be honest, I haven't really dug into Las Vegas enough. I've seen games in Vegas. They're ridiculous. I strongly recommend Avs fans, if you want to go see a fun road game, Vegas is the place to go. They're really into the games. The arena is right there at the New York. It's right on the Strip. It is just a freaking unbelievable experience with their game presentation, and they're really good. Now, that's a history, though, Mike. That's a recent history with Vegas and the Avalanche. That's a history people can remember.
Oh, I'm there. Trust me. I know a lot of people that have recently become Avalanche fans, and they think of the Knights as the boogeyman. I don't know. I would hope not for this season, but that's also why you play the game.
You know what? In general, though, I think the Avs are relatively going to cruise to the Western Conference Final, okay? So I think, Mike, we agree with each other on that. And from there, we'll see. You know,
see, I hate the word cruise because when I think cruise, I think you just win 4, boom, you get some rest, whatever.
Would you say that they cruised through the Western Conference playoffs a year ago? They went 12-2. The only resistance that was put up was St. Louis.
Yeah.
Won a couple games. To me, that's the definition of cruising. If you go through the Western Conference part of the playoffs, 12-2, 12-4, that's cruising. Now, if you play, 2 7-game series and a 6-game series, yeah, that's not cruising. That's a battle. That's a grind to get to the Western Conference Finals, to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But if you're able to go 12-2 in the Western Conference Finals, Western Conference playoffs, that's cruising.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
It just feels like the Blue Series, when you say it like that, I mean, you're correct. Just felt so much longer because there was so much drama that came with it.
Sure.
But the reason that happened was because Nathan MacKinnon had a hat trick and they lost the game, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason it felt like that. And then, of course, Game 6 was super close, and it was Helm getting the assist off Logan O'Connor off the boards and all that sort of stuff with a second left to go. That was really exciting. And then you had all the drama with Kadri, St. Louis and Berube and, that whole thing. And then Kadri with the hat trick. So I think St. Louis felt a lot harder than it really was because there was just kind of this ridiculous drama to that series too. There was no drama to the National Series, even though they had overtime games against the Predators. That felt relatively easy.
That was straight cruising.
And it's possible, and it is possible that the Avs we could be looking at a Western Conference playoffs where the series all have that St. Louis feel to it, which is fine. Look, it happens, and it's not always about just having an easy road, and you can still get to where you want to be. Look at Tampa. I gained so much respect for Tampa watching the Avs beat them in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, to understand that this is a team that won 2 Stanley Cups in a row, went to a 3rd Stanley Cup. this despite, with COVID and schedules being compressed and off seasons being shortened, they still found a way to have enough left in the tank to do it. So if the Avalanche, if the road's not going to be easy, okay. I mean, that they wouldn't be the first team to have to go through a rough road, a tough road to get to where they ultimately want to be. And I think this group would be up for it.
I love how you had the find a way in there because that was the mantra, right? Last year, bring it in. We still don't know why the Avs or the Nuggets decided to go with this slogan. I want to get your opinion on that real quick because I'm just mind blown by it. But we do know the schedule for Sunday is out, and the Nuggets will obviously play. They're going to be playing at 8:30 p.m. here, which I actually find to be disrespectful towards the Nuggets. Now, here's why. Both the Clippers and the Suns are in the Pacific time zone. We are obviously here in the Mountain, yet they still decided to put the Clippers-Suns game over the Nuggets. So they're obviously assuming that's going to be a better game, which, yes, the Nuggets are the number 1 seed. I get that, but I think they should be in the earlier. That's just me.
Over Suns Clippers?
Yeah, I just do. I think it should be the earlier game. You're talking about the number 1 site. I know the matchup doesn't actually, flow as well as Suns Clippers, but I just find it to be a little bit disrespectful.
Newsflash. If we've been paying any attention at all to the national media, they have no respect for the
Nuggets. They hate the Denver Nuggets.
So why is it going to start now?
I know.
Why are we going to get primo broadcasting times when they made it clear they want nothing to do with the Denver Nuggets? They would love to see the Denver Nuggets get eliminated as soon as possible. And in the meantime, while the Nuggets still have a pulse, we're going to bury them wherever we can. Are they going to be on True TV? Could we end up on True TV when this thing is all said and done?
Gosh, it's so heartbreaking.
You get the gold medal for Homer take of the day.
Well, I'm just
Nuggets.
so sick of it.
If you ran a network, you'd be putting Nuggets
over Suns Clippers.
TBD against Suns Clippers.
Yeah.
I get it.
All right, let's put on the Nuggets against the Wolves at a better time than Los Angeles against Kevin Durant.
I know, but I still feel like it's so disrespectful because they're the number 1 seed. They should be playing in the earlier nightcap on a Sunday night. How many people are going to stay up to see it?
But I love the words you just used there, disrespected. And you know
what?
It is. But they're not being disrespected in that regard. But they are being disrespected in many other ways. And boy, if ever... we have so many examples in sports of athletes or teams play the we don't get no respect card, and we all roll our eyes. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
But in this case, it's real. They are disrespected. And if ever there was a team that should be able to put a hefty chip on their shoulder and use it as motivation, it's these Denver Nuggets. It's all there for them. Let's see what they do with it.
No, I'm 100% there. D-Mac?
Yeah, I think this is more of a fan thing than a player and a coach thing. I think sometimes a coach may use it. Maybe the players get fired up about it. I kind of doubt it. But hey, listen, Michael Malone's going to talk here in an hour or so, and we'll see. Now that it came out, I'm sure he'll be asked about it, and let's see what he says about it. I'm sure some of the players will be asked about it. It's a good question. It's a fair question. It is the Nuggets, and listen, I don't think it has anything to do with the MVP that Jokic hasn't won. However, for TV and broadcast purposes, yeah, it actually does kind of matter what you've done and what market you're in and all that sort of stuff. And frankly, they haven't earned it yet. They just haven't. And, if you're better and you're in the finals or you've won a championship, the market doesn't matter. Cleveland earned that respect because they had the players in the championship pedigree at one point. So it's not about the city. It is about what you've accomplished when it comes to stuff like this.
Well, I think your ultimate role model, if you're the Nuggets, are the San Antonio Spurs. Because that is a market that nobody cared about.
Yep.
Even their best player, Tim Duncan. This wasn't Cleveland with LeBron. This was Tim Duncan, who, the big fundamental, just Mr. Boring bank shots from 15 feet away.
Jokic.
But yet they won at such a high level that everybody had no choice but to pay them attention and to make them a big story because they just earned it, to D-Mac's point. So I always look at who could the Nuggets look to as their inspiration? To me, it's Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich's Spurs.
That's actually a great comparison. And that's one I honestly had not thought of. And I love that you called me a homer, first of all, D-Mac. That's going to be sticking with me for the rest of the day. I know.
This is the most unholy of alliances. This is going to make you feel even worse, but I completely agree with him. What a homer take.
Okay. I'm just disappointed. I'm going to be up till 1 a.m. on Sunday and be up at 7 for coffee break. No, I'm totally kidding with everybody. Bring it in. What's your thoughts on the slogan for the playoffs?
Bring it in. Listen. After having just lived through Let's Ride, I'm kind of down on the whole slogan thing as it is, but bring it in is kind of cool. It's the rallying cry at the end of a timeout, at the end of a game. You've just had a big win, you just had the big speech afterwards, and it's, hey, bring it in, and then it's family on 3 or something like that. So I kind of like it. If you got to come up with if the job is to come up with a cheesy slogan, and everybody has one, bring it in isn't too bad. I kind of like it.
D-Mac, can we call him a homer now because the slogan is terrible?
Well, every slogan is going to be homerish, so if you're going to have one, I think that's pretty good.
But that's awful.
Really?
It is so much harder to think of these dopey slogans.
Right?
I mean, yes, but still.
What would you come up with?
For the Nuggets, okay. By the end of the show, I will come up with a better slogan than bring it in.
All right. Well, in terms of, by the way, I actually got a little birdie on the slogan. Can you imagine? I got information. Birdie talking to me, everything.
Okay.
So what I was told, and it's interesting that Mike did what he did there. You said bring it in, like let's come together, family on 3, all that sort of stuff. What I found out was that was the original idea of bring it in. However, when the Nuggets put the video and everything together, they got way far away from it. So they did not connect the original intent of the message with everything else. I found out, Mike, and I'll tell you off the air here, like who, it's a great juicy story, but I found out that the original intent was much different. So, all right, so because I know that, I kind of lean towards you, like it's not that bad because I know why it was brought up in the first place and it makes a ton of sense. But bring it in when all you're showing is like dunks by individual players and you're not really linking the community all the way together.
And also, of
all the slogans with the Nuggets, listen, man, I liked when we were brainstorming this is the time, or the time is now, or something like that, meaning we haven't done it before and there's no excuses. You could frankly just use no excuses, or something about time, like here, it's our time, now is the time, this is the time, something like that. Because really, it is staggering to think of all of our major teams here in Colorado, the Nuggets are the only one that have never been to a final. I mean, that is actually mind-blowing. Never mind winning a championship, they've never been to a final. So I think bring it in, I mean, okay, it could be better. But I think the time is now is way more appropriate.
Well, that's probably how the fans and us would look at the Nuggets. The time is now. But if you're the Nuggets, you want to make that your official motto because that implies a certain it's time. And if you don't deliver now, and now is not the time, what do you do then? If you make your official team slogan for the playoffs, the time is now, what happens if you don't deliver? Then where are you left with?
Hey, Mike, like Dan Patrick used to say, if you're afraid, buy a dog. What are we doing here? Are we okay? Are we afraid? Are we afraid of the time? Are we shirking from the spotlight that we're in right now? Are we chicken? So we're going to bring it in? Now, when you say bring it in under that context, it's like, whoa, let's hide. Let's bring it in. Let's be careful. I mean, it's not very assertive. Meanwhile, the Avs slogan, our way a day, find our way, I don't even know what that means. What is that? How about keep the cup with a Colorado C?
They haven't come out with this year's playoff slogan yet, right? That's not out yet. That was last year's. The find a with the A way was last year's. I don't think they've come out with this one.
Billboard. There is another one right now.
Oh.
Our way, our day, I don't know.
But D-Mac, this is actually important. Do you think the Nuggets, and you're around there a lot, do you think they view themselves as, hey, enough's enough, the time is now, put up or shut up time?
They better.
And do you think they're ready to put those kind of pressure, that kind of pressure and those kind of expectations on themselves? Because the moment you do that, and if you truly feel that way, now it's implied consequences if you don't. And you as an organization are prepared to follow through with those consequences if you don't. Do they view themselves that way?
I thought it was disturbing that game 82 with a bunch of replacements meant so much to win. I really, honest to God, was surprised by that. I'm sitting there talking and it's like, no, we needed to win. Like DeAndre Jordan is like, you can't flip the switch. Michael Malone was like really relieved that they won. And I mean, I'm like, really? Jack White is awesome. I mean, who cares? I mean, I think they were freaking themselves out. DeAndre Jordan admitted. It's one thing for us to speculate about it, guys, but when a player actually admits that they took an opponent lightly on a meaningful game, it's kind of like, wow, how does that happen? And he admitted that about the Rockets game, which what they should have won. They were playing their starters. They would have secured the win. Michael Malone's wife made a joke about backing into the number 1 seed. They just blew a great bonding opportunity, and I think they're a little shook by that. I think so. So, I mean, listen, we'll see. But if you want to tell me they're as determined to win the NBA championship as the Avalanche were last year, I don't see that. And I'm around these guys a lot. I just don't see it.
Okay, well, on that note, we do have a playing game today, which could affect the Nuggets, depending on who wins. Thunder versus Pelicans. Who do you like in this game?
I like the Pelicans. I love the way the Thunder have handled their season because everything they've done over the last couple of years is designed just to tank, and yet the players just aren't going along with it. Yeah. They fight, they battle. They're a scrappy team, but they're not a team that I would love to play the Thunder. Would love to play the Thunder, but New Orleans has the better team. They've got more talent. Even without Zion, Zion will play when Zion feels like Zion. I mean, it's.
Don't you wish you could still get your paycheck and be like, well, whenever I want to come out there?
Listen, Mike Evans will come to work when Mike Evans feels more like Mike Evans.
That's not at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Can you imagine the trying to pull that off? Anybody out there watching right now? Can you imagine trying to walk into your office, your boss, and say, "Hey, listen, I'll be back when I speak in the third person. I'm ready to feel like my third person." So no, but I would say New Orleans. The one thing I am interested in is because I think it'll be Minnesota that they'll play, and there's kind of a little kind of conundrum here that people need to deal with. If the idea is that we didn't want to face the Lakers and we don't have to play the Lakers, well, then how do you feel about playing a Minnesota team that had the Lakers completely on the ropes for most of that game, let them off the hook, but still was in a position to put them into that position? And you're playing a Minnesota team that I'm watching that game last night. Hey, they got Karl Anthony Towns. They got Anthony Edwards, who was awful, but is a proven player. You got Mike Conley, who's a veteran guard. You got Rudy Gobert, who's a psycho, but is still coming back and is formidable. Minnesota's got some pieces that if you're listing the 3 teams who you want to play, give me Oklahoma City. The team I probably would like to avoid would be Minnesota.
I mean, just the collapse, though. There was how many minutes did they go without having a basket?
But they were there.
Yeah, I don't care about either of those 3 teams. They're all fine. They're all annoying. Like, they all are annoying teams and have annoyed the Nuggets. That's the best that I can put it. I think New Orleans is the better of the 3, but that comes with a gargantuan caveat. That comes with expecting Zion Williamson to be able and wanting to play. So, I mean, if he's really just not going to play or whatever, well, I'll take the Pelicans, right? I mean, that's really a no-brainer. Oklahoma City is so young, but they're like a gnat. They are really pesky, and I know the Nuggets are a better team than them. So at the end of the day, I will take the Pelicans or the Thunder because the Wolves are just a better team theoretically. But all 3 of these teams have their own internal problems. They all 3 do. They're not nearly as seasoned and bonded together as the Nuggets. nor do they really have that one big-time superstar who can really take over the game in a definitive sort of way. A lot of really good players, but I mean, listen, look what LeBron James did yesterday, okay? I mean, gosh darn it. I mean, he willed the Lakers to a victory. And how stupid was Anthony Davis? I mean, that was mind-blowingly dumb what happened at the end of the game. And because of LeBron, they were able to, win relatively easy in overtime. So I'm actually kind of glad they're not playing the Lakers. I wouldn't be afraid of the Lakers, but nobody on these three remaining teams, guys, has a player like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. I mean, none of these guys have a guy like that. They have good players. They don't have a guy like that. And all the remaining teams in the league, except for those three, do. So I really don't care. It doesn't make that big of a difference. It would be kind of fun with the Wolves because of the Tim Conley sort of storyline. So that would be kind of fun. Other than that, whatever.
Yeah, I think either whatever team they play, I think it's a 4 or 5 game series.
Who worries you the most out of all the teams?
Of those three?
No, just NBA playoffs.
Oh.
Let's just stay in the West.
All right, stay in the West.
Yep.
I want to avoid the Golden State Warriors until somebody puts a stake through their heart. Seriously,
Same.
I just, to me, there's an element of the avalanche I see in the Warriors that the Avs have had the better regular season, but throughout this entire season with the Avalanche, there's always been that sense, just get them to the playoffs, just get them to the playoffs, just get them to the playoffs. And you can see that's clearly in place with the Warriors. So they're getting Andrew Wiggins back. That's a team that just would scare the heck out of me. Let somebody else do the dirty work of putting them away, because I'd like to avoid them.
No, I'm with you.
The only issue, though, Mike, and this is so quirky, they only won 9 games on the road this year. They were, terrible. That being said, let me give everybody a wake-up call. The Nuggets did beat the Warriors by 2 points not that long ago, okay? In that game, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry went 17 for 58 from 3. Or no, on the night. So shooting in general. So they were bad shooting threes, and they were bad shooting, period. How many nights are the Golden State Warriors with those two guys going to go 17 of 58? And guys, it took a fantastic block by Jamal Murray on Klay Thompson, or they would have lost the game. Do you think Klay Thompson misses 2 in a row from the same exact spot? Give me a break. I mean, they were that close to losing the game against the Warriors when the Warriors were shooting like crap.
So why are all three of us talking about the Warriors and not the Suns?
Because the Warriors are proven.
Is that
Yeah,
it?
I don't think the Suns have bonded together. They've had a lot of winning success, but I don't think they've been through enough battles and scars, and I don't think they'll know what to do in crunch time because they haven't built that chemistry together. So, listen, I'm not going to discount the Suns, though, okay? I mean, they have some great players. They do. But, guys, the best thing the Nuggets have going for them, they do have the best starting 5 of any team in the Western Conference. Top to bottom, 1 through 5, and then I'll go number 6 and maybe even number 7 because I love Bruce Brown, and I love I love the impact that Jeff Green has as well, okay? So I think top 6 players, because Brown's the first one off the bench. I don't think anybody's as strong top to bottom as the Nuggets, and as long as everybody's playing all right, they do have the MVP. And I think they do have the most dangerous 2-man game in the fourth quarter with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And I think they have an unstoppable force early in the game with Michael Porter Jr. He doesn't touch the ball in the fourth quarter, but all right. Going through that series, you're going to use MPJ more or less at will early in the game. And then, it's frustrating, but he doesn't touch the ball in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and for all the people who are like Suns and 4 guy, here's the one thing. The Nuggets, at least, they know their roles. Everybody on that team knows their roles, especially coming down the stretch, what they want to run, how they want to play. If you're in Phoenix right now and you're Monty Williams, their head coach, and you're thinking about the last 2 minutes of a playoff game, okay, who's the offense running through? Is it running through Kevin Durant? Is it running through Devin Booker? You got Chris Paul, this certainly alpha dog point guard who will have the ball in his hands, who he may think he should be taking the last shot, the big shot. So I think that speaking to D-Mac's point about the lack of continuity, these guys haven't gone through the kind of battles collectively that the Nuggets have gone through, and those roles and how they want to do things and their favorite plays to run, that's all stuff they're trying to figure out on the fly, and that can be difficult to do.
No, 100%. And it's going to be fun regardless. We're all looking forward to the playoffs. Broncos OTAs started yesterday, and we didn't hear anything out of Dove Valley, besides the fact, of course, that Russell Wilson was there before the sun came up. But, of course, we have to hear about that. How are you feeling about the fact that we're not going to hear a whole lot this season, Mike?
I think it's great. We've had too many slogans and let's rides and death by inches, and we had great Wednesday practices and all this over the last 6 years, and where has it gotten us? I'm all for trying it a different way. Yeah, it makes our job, your job going out to Dove Valley a little harder because you don't have the amount of people talking. The flow of information maybe isn't the same. Mm-hmm. But geez, I just think a whole lot more work and a whole lot less talk is a welcome change after what we've gone through over the last 6 gong show years around here.
D-Mac?
Listen, Sean Payton is trying to keep everything on the down low. I still got birdies. I still got them. And I've been told that everybody is basically walking around on eggshells around Sean Payton.
Great. Awesome.
So,
but an uncomfortable workplace doesn't make for a productive workplace.
Well, yeah, but
it's awkward right now because everybody's getting to know each other. So, and there is no disguising who's actually in charge, and that's Sean Payton, not George Payton, not even Greg Penner. It is absolutely Sean Payton's house. So there will be different rules for Sean Payton than everybody else. He did an interview with a CBS reporter on a golf course, and she beat him, if you want to go watch that. And he was very expansive about what he thinks about this and what he thinks about that. So while he's making sure everything else is locked down, he's going to be the one on his own terms. And it's not going to be us local muggles, by the way. You know what it's going to be. It's going to be national broadcasters or something else that serves a bigger purpose. There perhaps will not be an icier relationship between a head coach and the local media than there will be between Sean Payton and the rest of us human muggles. That's why Mike and Mark have the big advantage in this ball game, that's for sure, because Mark is not seen as a local muggle, even though he does a lot of local muggle behaviors. So Sean sees them differently. So Mike, that is a good advantage, but it's going to be interesting because you are going to have the least hyped season of all time in Broncos history, despite all the changes. And the Broncos are trying to do stuff. I don't know if you guys have noticed what they're trying to do. Like, they were hyping up the scoreboard yesterday and showing like a construction site. And I think that's only going to go so far with the fans. I think the fans are going to have a wait and see sort of attitude. I think they're going to be enthusiastic eventually. But I do think the Broncos are actually missing a golden opportunity to actually energize the fan base in a positive way. Let me tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, so is Mike. All the stories, all of them, unless you're coming back from jail, are positive at this time of year. Every single story told is something good. You get to know the players. You get to say good things about them. You figure out how much guys weigh, fun things they did in the offseason. It is the most assured time to get positive publicity for your team. And why Sean Payton doesn't want that, I actually don't get it. I understand why he doesn't want bragging and showing you doing drills in the sand and, all sorts of crazy stuff there. But I don't really get why he doesn't want very basic standard positive conversation about his team, because we don't know any of these coaches. We don't know a lot of these players. I think he's actually dropping the ball on this one.
No, I disagree. I don't think that he's definitely not taking his cue from the fans. But in this case, I think it's a perfect storm in that You've got a guy, you got to realize Sean Payton is a disciple of Bill Parcells. And having had a chance to cover Parcells for a couple years in New England, it's just so obvious. I can just see and feel the similarities. And one thing about Parcells is a come in, strip things down to the studs type of person. Mm-hmm. He is somebody that he does not want to hype things. And you can just tell. And well, who else comes from that tree? Bill Belichick. So I think what you're seeing is Peyton's influencers, and he's bringing it here. But I think it's a perfect storm because I think at this point, Broncos country, they're done with positive stories. They're done with
disagree.
They're done with hype and videos and slogans. And this guy is in the best shape of his life. I think Broncos country is smart enough to realize, you know what? We went through all of this the last 6 years. We've been through it. We're tired of it. Tell you what, go out, win some games, then we'll get excited. But if you think that we're going to get excited by, hey, this guy looked really good in OTAs, or this guy's in great shape, I just think that Broncos country is just over it. They're tired of it. And they want to see wins in October and September, and that's what will get them excited. But you disagree? Go ahead.
Fans love to be hyped up all times of the year. They love their team to be talked about. They love energy and excitement. They love being able to be that guy in the bar that says, hey, did you know this about McGlinchey or Ben Powers or Zach Allen? How about VJ coming back? Nah, you're wrong on this one, Mike. Fans love positive integration of their team as much as humanly possible. They do. And by the way, we're not done yet expanding the fan base of the Denver Broncos, are we? Is that it? We've already counted all the potential fans of the Denver Broncos? Really? We're done? Nah, I'm not buying that. I think it's a mistake. I know what Sean Payton's trying to do, but I'll agree with you on this, the Bill Parcells thing. Bill Parcells was a complete narcissist that always had to be the biggest star in the room. So was Belichick. And that's why there's a big conflict with Brady. So yeah, they're egomaniac narcissists. They want to be the stars. And I think you're right about Sean Payton like that. That's why I call him Slim Shawnee. He wants to be the star, and he's going to do his way of doing that. So if you want to tamp down Russell Wilson, okay. But that doesn't mean you can't get us excited about other guys. I mean, there are other stories out there. And right now, you know what Sean Payton wants the story to be? Sean Payton. That's it. That's this dude. So just be aware of it. And if they win, fine. but if you just want to be the brightest star, you better shine the brightest.
Well, you can't argue with his track record, and you can't argue with the track record of the people he's influenced by. So, if I'm going to be following a model, I'd rather be the narcissistic Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Sean Payton model than whatever the heck model Vic Fangio and Nathaniel Hackett and Vance Joseph brought here. Whatever that was.
Hey, Mike, my favorite coach of all time, even though he doesn't like me, and I love Shanny too. I love Mike Shanahan too. But I really do think the best coach that I've ever covered was Gary Kubiak. As good as Shanahan was, and he's number 2. And then I got Marv Levy too, by the way. So I got some good guys to compare to. So when I think about the 3 best coaches I covered, Marv Levy, Mike Shanahan, Gary Kubiak, they didn't waste time having the spotlight on themselves. I think Mike Shanahan might have gone a little bit in that direction later.
Yeah, no, he's much more Sean Payton than Gary Kubiak.
But Kubiak did none of that. Kubiak didn't care. He didn't care about this stuff. If you wanted to get to know the guys, he was fine with that. Marv Levy was a great coach. I get it. He didn't win a Super Bowl, but he was a great coach. He didn't care about that stuff either. Listen, man, but again, all right, fine. Listen, it's been bad, and if you need a complete change of approach, okay. I'm fine with it, and Sean Payton's going nowhere. But let's just be clear what Sean Payton's all about. And if that's fine with you, it's fine with me too. I don't really care as long as it works. Just as long as we all realize the star of this show is Sean Payton. Not his players, it's Sean Payton. And he wants it that way.
Well, who would you rather it be?
Well, let me just leave you with this. Mike Shanahan, people were on eggshells walking around Mike Shanahan. there was a reign of terror, narcissistic quality to Mike Shanahan as well. And that worked out just fine. So after the clown show that we have watched around here for the last 6 years, give me a reign of terror led by a narcissistic dictator any day. Sign me up.
You two clearly don't hold back. I didn't think I was going to have to pull out popcorn this time, but I did. As always, love hanging out with both of you. Mike Evans, thank you so much for taking time.
Always.
I appreciate
We're
it.
done already?
God,
that time goes by so fast.
It really does. I appreciate that.
Initially, you said I'm going to need you for 45 minutes. I was like, 45 minutes with D-Mac. I can't do that. But it actually was fun, D-Mac. I loved it.
Crazy concept. We have so much fun here on Coffee Break. Mike, huge shout out to you. Thank you very much. D-Mac, we got to talk about Dinger and the Rockies, though, because, oh my goodness, I cannot believe we watched Dinger get bullied this week.
That was awful. And I'm not even sure what game that was, but if you don't know what we're talking about, a fan who had to be hammered jumps onto the Rockies dugout roof. That Dinger's up there singing "Hey Baby," which I think is the 7th inning stretch, and tackles Dinger. For those morons out there that don't realize it, Dinger's not an individual person. It's a human being in a costume, okay? It's a human being in a costume that is designed to have a little fun and entertain children. And having violent behavior against another human being is reprehensible. I was sickened by that video that I saw. Whoever was in the Dinger costume absolutely could have been injured because of that.
Yep.
It was bizarrely unnecessary. And I know we've had fun just kind of ripping on Dinger in the costume. That all seems to be lighthearted. But now I do wonder, has an accumulation of the collective having fun about Dinger resulted in some sort of concept that it's a bad thing or a bad person or a bad mascot? So I am here to say I will never say anything critical in the media or in my personal life against Dinger. I used to have some fun with it, but now forget it, because I can see that it may have some sort of trickle-down effect on a bunch of morons. So I hope they find out who that guy is. Not only do I hope he's banned from the Rockies for life, I hope he is banned from every major league and minor league ballpark in America for life. That's what that guy deserves. And I'd lock him up and throw him in jail for a few days for him to think about it for assault. I think that was absolutely, positively reprehensible. And anybody who's laughing about it or making jokes about it needs to check themselves too, in my opinion.
We've got the video, so we're going to go ahead and play it. But I am 100% with you, D-Mac. Let's take a watch. It's a short clip, but it is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know who in their right mind would be like, this is going to be a good idea. I was appalled. And honestly, I was really embarrassed that it had to happen at Coors Field. Like, honestly, I know it has nothing to do with the Colorado Rockies besides Dinger and where it was, but it's really unfortunate. And you look like an actual idiot if you are that person. I'm sorry. That's just what it is.
It's fair to criticize things on the field and frustrations and losses and all that sort of stuff. But the presentation of the game and people that work at Coors Field are good people. They should be treated with respect.
Absolutely. Oh. Well, we'll see about D-Mac. Okay. We'll see where he is. Real quick, while we do that, though, there's some news coming out that Saquon Barkley is not going to sign his franchise tag. Now, this obviously was a big conversation in New York because it came down to, one, are they going to do Saquon Barkley or Daniel Jones as their franchise tag? They obviously went with Daniel Jones. D-Mac, welcome back.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just telling everybody, Saquon Barkley is not going to sign his franchise tag, and it was kind of a big deal out there with the Giants because it kind of came down to, who are they going to franchise tag? Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and they ended up going with Saquon Barkley and just signing Daniel Jones. But clearly, Saquon wants to get paid.
Yeah, well, the problem Saquon's going to have, like a million other guys, is you have no power. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't. So you can protest all you want. This is the collective bargaining agreement the players negotiated with the league. This never works. I mean, unless you're really seriously willing to miss out on games, which has happened,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane for a running back just to miss games, miss a paycheck, and then devalue himself even more. I'm sorry, perhaps it's not fair. Maybe it feels bad, but take it up with your union, man. I mean, take it up with the contracts and the agreements that you guys have made. But Saquon has no power. That's the way it goes. Lamar Jackson has no power, none, nothing he can do, and this is what the players have figured out, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want me to say? But let me tell you, this is why the NFL is the most entertaining sport in the world. And it's lousy that one of the reasons it's the best sport is because it may treat the players unfairly, although they agreed to it, because there's a salary cap and there's a significant restriction about bouncing from one team to another. There really is. It's hard to do. It's harder to do in football than any other sport. And then there's so much more power with guaranteed contracts in these other sports. It's ridiculous, and nobody has that power better than baseball. I mean, that is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a real payday right there. Oh, my question to you is, do you feel bad for the players that they don't have power?
I don't feel bad for the players while they're playing, okay? Because there is free agency. There are ways for you to, test the market. Every player has the right to do that. It does exist.
100%.
It's not a big window. Here's where I feel bad for the players specifically in the NFL. I think the healthcare benefits for the ex-players are pitiful.
Yes.
I think they should be lifetime benefits, and if not lifetime benefits, extended way further out. And I don't think the league minimum is fair either. I think even a significant cup of coffee in your first 2 years should generate you health care insurance for a long period of time. But I think you have to put in service time, Rach. I think it's like 3.5 years, something like that. I think that should be shrunk down. The lower class / lower middle class in the NFL, it's salty. What can I tell you? It's like between 1 and 3 years, and there's not a lot left for you, because it's not just your time in the NFL, Rachel. It was your time maybe in Pop Warner through high school and college, and then get to the NFL. And you could have significant health issues in that time for what it takes to even be in the NFL. So that's where I feel bad for the players. In terms of just the contracts, not as much. I do think the players are more aware, or should be, about the potential health risks to them, especially with concussion. I think all the information's out there. You just got to find it. So I think they're more aware than ever. So I'm not really concerned about the players who are playing. I think post-playing is where I feel bad for some of these guys.
No, I feel that too. Yeah, I do. I have a hard time feeling bad when they're, talking about all these contracts and such. And not because they don't deserve it, but I'm like, there are just so many other people that would kill to be in that position as well. And so it's kind of this like battle of back and forth of like, yes, you should get paid. You are an absolute phenomenal player, but there's also other players out there who probably like may never have gotten that chance that are also in there. So it's always weird to be talking about like that sort of contract or not signing that franchise tag because they want to get paid, etc. But I 100% agree with you when it comes down to the medical stuff, healthcare. It's really sad. And actually, if people like dig deep into it, they really do not get great benefits compared to other leagues by any means. So it is unfortunate.
But once you make it there, like, listen, Saquon, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it was pretty easy to see what the possibilities could be for you based on contracts and things that have happened in the past. And you being upset really isn't going to change anything. I do remember 2 years ago, everybody was like, John Elway should pay Philip Lindsay all this money for like kind of no reason. And as much as I like Philip Lindsay, I was like, why would John just spend money he doesn't have to spend just because Philip Lindsay's a good dude? I mean, it's just not the way it works. You contribute, and that's why it was so preposterous that Chris Harris all those years ago, Elway just gave him like an extra $3 million, but didn't extend his contract. It's like, that made no sense, and I love Chris. So I'm not trying to hate on Chris at all, but like, what were you doing there, Elway? And I think John realized that. So when it came to Philip Lindsay, no, you're not going to get that treatment. Rachel, there's inherent advantages to finding somebody undrafted and sticking them on your team, and it works out. I mean, why shouldn't the management have advantages as well if they do the right thing and they do their homework and it works out? So I think it's different sort of situations for all players. But when you watch the XFL, and I think it starts this week, the USFL.
Yep.
We have 2 spring leagues with a lot of guys that look like Saquon Barkley out there killing themselves to get in his position. The amount that you feel sorry for Saquon Barkley goes down the tubes.
My point exactly. D-Mac, a fun show today. Loved having Mike Evans on. Loved him hanging out. I feel like we had some really good conversation. Everybody in the comments, I read them. I see them. You guys are tuning in on, chiming in on everything, and we love it. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.